What's up, guys? My name is David Walker. I'm a senior here at Plymouth State University, and today I'll be discussing currents in American literature through the lens of New Historicism. This lens I wasn't too familiar with before the course. Normally, I've looked at text from a perspective that either ignores the author entirely or is specifically biographical to the author. But New Historicism allows us to look at these works mainly concerning the time period and reoccurring themes of respective movements in society that play a big role in the structure and themes as history changes how the audience perceives the text. So first we have the contact period with Christopher Columbus. Columbus was not a nice guy. We live in a culture that celebrates his accidental discovery of America, but what we find out is that he brutalized and enslaved many of the native peoples. We started off the course analyzing ethnographic text, which are stories of the natives translated to English by white people. Some problems that arise from this are that words get lost in translation to English. Also, the ones who write this text are not actually the authors, but the translators, and that hinders us from deriving true meaning from the author's actual words. Also, many of these texts will never be discovered because of religious persecution dealt by the colonizers to the natives. New Historicism is important because the context lets us know that we can't take these texts at face value, and they're not the best representations of the Indian people. So next we have William Bradford and the period of settlement. This is kind of a diary-based literary period having much to do with religion, specifically identifying sinners and putting emphasis on anything that would threaten religion. This period shed light on what it was like to settle in the New World, and the heavy basis on journals made kind of an adventure out of it. It also sheds light on how ill-prepared colonizers were in dealing with the natives and also thriving in the geography of the region. Next, we had the period of Enlightenment. This was a literary period that didn't focus as much on religion. The main focus was actually putting emphasis on self-identification of the nation as an independent entity. We encounter writers like Thomas Paine, who authored Common Sense, which was a pamphlet that tried to appeal to the basic senses of reason in the American people to break free from Mother Country. He also used the strategy of appealing to logic in his pamphlet, The Age of Reason, which basically did the same thing, appealing to people's common sense, using it against religion and the Christian church specifically. We also see the emergence of feminist writers, such as Judith Sargent Murray. She gained popularity by bringing to light disparity between the sexes and introducing the idea of equality between men and women. Next, we have Edgar Allan Poe and the dark beginnings of American Romanticism. The emphasis of this literary period was mainly based on symbols, emotion, magic, and aesthetics. It was a very dramatic form of writing. It involved lots of death and other grotesque and macabre imagery. But by presenting these morbid things in such a poetic way, it helped people see the beauty in them. One of America's most beloved short stories is The Black Cat by Edgar Allan Poe. And in that one, the narrator is an alcoholic. He gouges the eye out of a cat, and he drives an axe through his wife's head. But this was a transition period where Americans were learning to love it. So, following the Romantics, we have the Age of Realism. And Walt Whitman is a prominent name in this era. He released Song of Myself, which is a very nature-based poem, very realistic. That was the emphasis of realism, redundant as it is, was the real. So we're starting in this era to veer away from dark, macabre, kind of magic, mysterious imagery, and we start putting more emphasis on the world in front of us. Some might call it an era of appreciation for the real. This literary movement leads into the era of transcendentalism. Unfortunately, the semester was not long enough for us to cover it, but that's a video for another time.